Okay, I think I'm live. I'm going to do a bit of aspect work. What I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen and see what I can do here. I've done this before, so let me see if I can just bring up, I'm going to speak on aspects. So let's have a look. What I need to do is see if I'm live, and I think I am. And I'm going to return to my meeting and I'm going to share my screen. So hopefully what you'll see is a slideshow. Let me get rid of this. And this is my Zoom system, so do forgive me if I'm messing around a bit. All right, so I don't know if I'm going to see anybody come on and chat, but if I do, I can't see anybody at the moment from my mobile phone, but I'll come back at the end and discuss. If there's any questions, then I'll discuss them. So I'm not very organized, but I'm going to go for it. So basically, I've been studying evolutionary astrology for a few years now through Raising Vibrations. It's the work of Jeff Wolf-Green. And what we do is that we're able to see through evolutionary astrology, we're able to see the journey of the soul. So it's a way of looking at ourselves and being able to objectify our lives so that we can begin to evolve, our dispositions that are no longer working and any hardships that we have that we've been born into. So I'm going to go for this slide here, and hopefully you can see this come up. So I'm going to explain what aspects are in a chart, because not everybody's going to understand what an aspect is in astrology. You can see here that this is I'm going to get my pointer. So let me see there and spotlight. All right, so what you've got, this is my chart, and it's dated this year, and it's basically showing my planets at my time and date of birth. And what we have is that when we look at an astrology chart, we want to determine what the aspects are. Apart from the natal placements, we're also looking at aspects. So a conjunction, for an instance, if you don't know what a conjunction is, I'm going to show you. And what a conjunction is, it's when two planets are within so many degrees of each other. So a conjunction, I have a conjunction here, and I have a conjunction there. And I've also got conjuncted planets here. And again, Saturn and Chiron conjunct. So let's do that again. I've got my Saturn conjunct my Chiron. I've got my South Node, which is past life, conjunct my Neptune. I've got Pluto conjunct Uranus. And then I've got my Sun, which is in a weak conjunction with my North Node, which is this path in this lifetime. And then I've got also my Mars and Mercury conjunct my node as well. So a conjunction is an angle of an approximately between 0 to 10 degrees. An orb of approximately 10 degrees is usually considered a conjunction. But if neither the sun or the moon is involved, some consider the conjunction to have a maximum distance between 0 and 8 degrees. And this is said to be the most powerful aspect because it's intensifying the effects of the involved planets mutually and being a major point in the chart. So when we look at a chart, we're going to firstly, not the first thing we do. I mean, in evolutionary astrology, what we're going to do is we're going to look at Pluto, and we're going to look at the South Node, which is past life, and then the North Node, which is this life. But then we're going to look at conjunctions and see what's going on there, because they're powerful indicators of where we're at in our life. And then a sextile is a intermediate, major, minor aspect. So a sextile is 60 degrees. So and I'm going to give you an example of that. You can see this blue line here. It's going to be 60 degrees. So each house is, a sign is 30 degrees. So if you go 30, you go 60. So you can very much see that I've got 60 degrees between planets here. And a sextile, it says, is an angle of 60 degrees, and an orb is allowed. An orb is the space that's allowed. Between 3 to 4 degrees is allowed, depending on the planets involved. The sextile has been traditionally said to be similar in influence to a trine, but less intense. It indicates ease of communication between the two elements involved, with compatibility and harmony between them. And a sextile provides opportunity, and it is very responsive to effort expended to gain its benefits. So you can see that I've got some benefits that from having that sextile going on there, which is an orb of 60 degrees. So next slide. And if anybody's there, what I'm going to do at the end, I'm going to come back and, chat. So stay with me. It's not going to be a long video. So let's just see where we go with this. I can't see from my mobile if anybody's there. So I'm just going to keep going on with these slides. So then we have the next slide. So I'm going to explain to you here, we've got a square. So it says a square is an angle of 90 degrees. An orb of somewhere between 5 to 10 is usually allowed depending on the planets involved. As with the trine and the sextile, in the square, it is usually the outer or superior planet that has an effect on the inner or inferior one. The square's energy is strong and usable, but has a tension that needs integration between two different areas of life, or offers a choice point where an important decision needs to be made that involves an opportunity cost. It is the smallest major aspect that usually involves houses in different quadrants. So if you look here, so I've got Pluto, which is pretty major, squaring my moon. So that's given me a lot of issues or problems in my life personally. It's depending on what house it's in as well. So that's, Pluto is in my 9th house, which is my belief system and my higher learning and the cosmos and stuff like that. And then it's in that moon is in my 7th house, which is to do with my one-to-one relationships. And that can be with, all relationships we're involved in, like, family, friendships, partners, business, everybody we're interacting with. So personally, my experience of that Pluto square moon has been very hard for me. And then I've got Jupiter that squares my Chiron down there, and the moon squaring my Chiron as well. So you can see there that I've got tension going on. And, there's depth there. So when we're looking at a chart, we're looking deeply. It's not just, one thing. We're looking at many, many aspects on a chart. A trine, you can see here, a trine is a angle of 120 degrees, and it's an orb of somewhere between 5 to 10 degrees that space allowed, and it's depending on the planets involved. The trine relates to what is natural and indicates harmony and ease. So a trine is a nice thing, but we can be lazy. So the trine may involve talent or ability, which is innate. That means it's in us. It's an ability within us. And the trine has been traditionally assumed to be extremely beneficial when involved in a transit. The trine involves situations that emerge from a current or past situation in a natural way. But if we don't use, if we don't look at our talents and we don't use them well, then we're basically it's going to be wasted. So a trine is, you can see there that I've got Pluto trine in my North Node, this past life, and then I've got Uranus also trine in my North Node, and I've got Neptune trining my Chiron and Neptune trining my Saturn as well. So we can really look closely to see what's going on here. And again, reading a chart is very specific. It takes time to do it. It's not something you just do in 5 minutes. We have to look at, what we're looking for as well, if this makes any sense to you. So an opposition, you've got down here, an opposition is an angle of 180 degrees. So that's basically half the chart, 100, because the chart is 360 degrees. And opposition is where the red line that goes from one side to the other. So you can see that I've got Neptune there, and I've got my North Node here. So I've got some oppositions going on, and I've also got Neptune opposing my Sun. Sounds really scary, but it's not. And we evolve our chart as we go through life. And this is why it's worth knowing ourselves and knowing our chart. And what we have here is, I'll read to you, it says an opposition is an angle of 180 degrees. An orb of somewhere between 5 and 10 is usually allowed depending on the planets. So if you don't know what I mean by that, so you can see that my Neptune there is 20 degrees. And my moon there is at 0 degrees. So a dead opposition is going to be like from there to there. But because of the orb, the space allowed, the degrees allowed, it is an opposition. So we can have a weak opposition or we can have a strong opposition depending on how close the orb is. And then we have oppositions are said to be the second most powerful aspect. It resembles the conjunction, although the difference between them is that the opposition is fundamentally relational, and some say it is prone to exaggeration as it is not unifying like the conjunction, but a dichotomous quality and an externalizing effect, all important access in areas. So now I'm going to go here. So you've got my chart and you can see a bit closer here. You can see the oppositions. There's other things going on here as well. You've got like what's called a yod, which is generally the finger of God. It's like where planets are struggling to understand something about each other. And then we've got sextile, and you can have semi-sextiles and all sorts of things. And all of these little planets, green symbols on the outside, they are transits in action. But this is an old chart. This is dated the 17th of February 2019. So now those transits, are out of date because the planets move so quickly. The inner planets move quite fast, but the outer planets like Pluto takes about 245 years to move around a chart. We've got Saturn, which takes about 29 years, 28, 29 years. And then Uranus, that again takes about 84, I think, if I've got my record right. Jupiter takes 12 years to move around a chart. And Neptune takes about 185 years from what I recall, roughly. I might have slightly wrong there, but overall. Then here is a list that you can look at to understand the symbolisms. You've got a conjunction, an opposition, a square, a trine, a sextile. And then you've got these other angles, which is a sesquare, 135 degrees. So really looking at a chart is a lot of learning that takes place to get to the point where you can just zoom in on a chart and see what's going on. So it's good to look for the things that are right in front of us, first of all, which would be the Pluto and then the South Node and the North Node. And then begin to look at where the conjunctions are and the oppositions and any squares, and to Pluto as well, and the nodes, really important. And then here I've made it easy for people to compare, so people can stop this video and play back and watch it and see, maybe compare to their own chart. And a little bit here on astrology. Sorry if anybody's chatting that I can't see you, but I'm going to pop back in a minute. It's just because I'm using a slideshow, I'm not able to see if anybody is on chatting. So astrology is the study of man's response to planetary stimuli. The stars have no conscious benevolence or aminosity. They merely send forth positive and negative radiations of themselves. These do not help or harm humanity, but offer a lawful channel for the outward operation of cause and effect equilibriums which each man has set in motion in the past. So, I believe in past lives and karma, not like, something bad's going to happen to us, but, it's just like an ongoing infinite energy that we've got and that we're working through something. This comes from Yoganda and at the book, The Autobiography of a Yogi, but this part is Outwitting the Stars, and I'll go on to read this. He says, a child is born on that day and at that hour when the celestial rays are in mathematical harmony with his individual karma. His horoscope is a challenging portrait revealing his unalterable past and its probable future results. But the natal chart can be rightly interpreted only by men of intuitive wisdom, and these are few. The message boldly blazoned across the heavens at the moment of birth is not meant to emphasize fate, the result of past good and evil, but to arouse man's will to escape from his universal thraldom, which he has done, he can undo. None other than himself was the instigator of the causes of whatever effects are now prevalent in his life. He can overcome any limitation because he created it by by his own actions in the first place, and because he has spiritual resources which are not subject to planetary pressures. So that's from Outwitting the Stars. And now I'm going to go, that's my email if anybody's got any questions. And I'm going to come out of this now. And let's see, stop share. Okay, so that's it. Let me see if anybody is there. I'm just going to end that show and save that. And then let's see if anybody is there. I've got 3 viewers, so I don't know if anybody got all of that. I haven't been on for long, but I've just been running through what aspects mean in astrology. And I think astrology is a really beautiful tool to know ourselves. And if you want me to look at your chart with you, then I'm happy to do that. I've got a deal going on at the moment. And also what I do is I do it on Zoom like this. So if you have a meeting with me and you look at your birth chart, if you have your time of birth, we're able to look at where you're at and where the transits are for you and what's happening. So I can see I've got 3 viewers at the moment. I don't know if anybody wants to say hello to me or if anybody's got any questions. But astrology has, it's really helped me heal a lot of my own personal issues that I've had. And it's helped me to understand my early trauma. And I use it as a tool. And also the other thing I love about astrology is that Carl Gustav Jung, he used astrology with his patients and in practice and, symbolism to understand people and their, where he couldn't understand people, he was able to dig deeper with them. So, and if we look back in history, pre-psychoanalysis and psychotherapy, hundreds of years ago, people would have been sitting under the stars and looking to the stars and sitting around campfires and, they wouldn't have been looking at their mobile phones and Facebook and stuff like that. People would have really been delving into stories and the meaning of life and trying to figure out what life means. So astrology is a way of doing that. For me, it's more to do with the soul journey. For some people, it's going to be, I've had people who say, I'm not saying people do often, but they want to know about relationships or whether they're going to win the lottery or stuff like that. We can't, really, I think with astrology, we need to be digging deeper and looking at ourselves as souls on a journey and, establish what that journey is and the best way to live out our lives and to objectify where we're struggling. And that, for me, is the best way to use astrology, because I think we go through so many things, and Saturn is a beautiful way of looking at the wisdom and what we need to learn. It's like a teacher. And Jupiter is about expansion. Every planet has a meaning. Pluto is about birth and death and, where we recreate something, where things fall to bits. And wherever a planet is in our chart, we're going to be able to see, what area of life we're working with. And the natal chart is a snapshot of the heavens at birth. But then as we go on, we will see that as the transits move, from where they've been at birth. For instance, I'll give you Pluto will not, in our lifetime, we'll be lucky if it goes, sort of through maybe 4 or 5 houses through a lifetime, because it takes 245 years to orb a chart. So clearly we're not going to live 245 years. And it's a big indicator of where we are. For instance, at the moment, I've got Pluto in my 2nd house, but I was born with a 9th house Pluto on my MC with Uranus. And that shows, really what I'm here to do in this lifetime. And it's a fascinating tool to really begin to help ourselves and know ourselves. And for me, I think, it's really important that we do know ourselves. And so that's it. I'm going to leave it there. And I'm going to be back tomorrow. I hope if you didn't see it from the beginning and you don't understand what aspects are, just hit the replay button. I don't think this is going to be a long video to play back. So catch you later. Thanks for whoever's watching. I can't see, but I do know that I've got 3 viewers at the moment, and I'll be back in a couple of days with something else. Catch you later.